All right, welcome back, everyone. I have a special guest on my channel today. We kind of connected over X, or what was formerly known as Twitter, and he was on a good friend's podcast, Aaron Amin from the Hybrid Real Estate Investor. But welcome, Mike Sullivan.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate it, man. Thanks for waking up early.
This is my normal time for me, but
5 a.m.
yeah. I finished my workout, got my coffee, and ready to do this. But I connected with you, but I also, listened to your episode on Aaron's podcast, and I just love the message that you're putting out there. And maybe you can touch on that and kind of touch on your handle as what your name is on X.
Yeah, sure. So, first of all, thanks for having me. Appreciate it. Big fan of you yourself and your story. My handle on X is inspired landlord. Um, I did it after, before we purchased our first property. So, um, we have one property, which is a condo. Uh, in the summer of 2022, I kind of became obsessed with real estate investing. I just binge listened to podcasts, a couple hundred probably, and it started in June of 22, and by November of 22, we had purchased our first property. It was a condo in a two. It was a two family, but we just bought one side of it, and it was something that my wife and I were comfortable with because we kind of wanted to get into real estate, but not go all in, over leveraged. What are we doing? So it was just enough to dip the toes in, and it's worked out beautifully. We how we financed that was we used a HELOC on our primary residence, um, and we were able to use some of our own cash to kind of buy that outright. So that one actually doesn't have a mortgage. We're just down paying the principal every month with the rent. So that one cash flows right now at current rates because the HELOC rates are variable. That one cash flows about 500 per month. When we first bought it, it cash flowed 850, but we got the HELOC at a 5.5 rate. That current rate is now 7.99, so it's crept up, but we're still comfortable with the cash flow where it's at, and we're hoping. We know that's not a strategy, but rates start to trickle back down. But again, we're comfortable with that. And then 11 months later, October of 2023, we bought our first multifamily, a 2 unit in Warwick, Rhode Island, and we took out another HELOC. We got a business account. We have LLCs for both of our properties. So we were able to get a business HELOC, use that for a down payment, and we mortgaged our second property. So um, we've got actually the second tenant is signing the lease today, January 26th, 2024. So that will be fully occupied. And then we're going to start taking the cash flow, which on day one today will be just under $1,000 from all three doors. And we're just going to use all of it to crush HELOC principal. Really, this year, 2024, we're going to be hoping to just crush some HELOC principal in general, because as you do that, as you know, the cash flow goes up from there. We're not naive. We know things are going to happen. We know repairs are going to need to be made. We know things go wrong. So we have reserves for that. But again, when you crush principal on HELOC, you're kind of freeing up money in case that needs to be used in that capacity as well. So, um, got two children, beautiful wife, been married for 11 and a half years, 5-year-old son, 3-year-old daughter, preschool, kindergarten. So yeah, we're just trying to provide for them in the future. We're learning each and every day, inspired by the people that I've made connections with on X, including yourself. So just trying to be a better father, person, human, every single day.
Oh, sounds so easy. It's a wrap then. We
Right.
can just wrap this up. I mean, everything seems like it's going perfect for you, and we're
No,
done here.
not even
But,
close.
but well, you touched on your portfolio a little bit. So are you saying, so how old are you and how long have you been in the investing game, I guess? Because it seems like you've been doing it for years.
Oh gosh, no, actually. So I turned 40 in February. Got the gray hair right here.
Ah, I
You can,
can't even see that.
yeah,
No,
it's the
man.
lighting. I did it on purpose. No, you can. So yeah, I turned 40 next month. I didn't get into real estate until I was 38 in 2022. I had always been trying. I always do try to find new streams of income. Always been on a path toward financial freedom because I want the time with my family. That's more important than any dollar amount ever will be. So I figured out that real estate investing is probably the most powerful tool to help create time freedom in the form of cash flow. And it's not passive by any means, it's a lot of work, especially self-managing. So yeah, we've only owned properties since November of 2022, and I look forward to not making mistakes, but learning. Every mistake that we make, we look at as an opportunity to improve rather than oh crap, we failed. Um, we've had a few minor things, nothing that has put us in a bad spot, but just little things like, learning along the way of over communication. Should we have gave them this piece of information? Probably not. Right now, I don't tell people I'm the owner. I tell them that I'm the property manager, and I'll report back with my partner and get back to them. But I think one of the things that I love helping people. Like that's really what I love most. So I look at being a landlord as a super important duty. It's a service industry. These are real human beings. In one of our units, we have a single mother, 34 years old, working three jobs, three girls, 15, 12, and 10. She escaped an abusive relationship. She decided to live on our property. That's a huge responsibility. And I feel like it's just, we analyze all these deals and we look at all the numbers and yes, cash flow, appreciation, taxes, advantages. These are real human beings that we're putting into our homes. It's our responsibility to put a warm roof, a safe place, and provide for these families. It's a service industry. So, that's something that when my wife and I got into it, we wanted to actually take care of people and separate ourselves from never being associated with that slumlord word. So, we just put people first, and if you take care of them, they'll take care of you and your properties, and we're just looking to help people, really, Mark.
Yeah, I think that's what the misconception is a lot of times is, people say a lot of things about landlords and whatnot, but yeah, of course, there's some bad apples out there, but the majority, they're trying to help other people have a nice roof over their head, and you're trying to maintain things, and you're just trying to provide for the community. But I want to kind of maybe go back a little bit earlier because you said you've always been on this path for financial freedom, and you said you've just been in real estate for maybe the past few years. So what were you doing before this for passive income, financial freedom? And I also noticed on your X, you mentioned you have this W-2 that you love. So a lot of times people get down this path because they're in a W-2 that they don't enjoy, whereas it looks like you enjoy your W-2. So you want to touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. I've been in the local news industry for about 17 and a half years. I got into it back in '07, '06, right out of college, and became a producer, producing local newscasts. And I know the media gets a bad rap, as it should, but I work for a local news station, not a national organization that has clear agendas. I won't get into that, but if I
No
were to show
comment.
any,
Yeah, no
yeah,
comment.
no comment, no comment. If I were to show one sentence of bias, I would be fired immediately. So that is off the table.
Okay, before you move on, let me
Go
ask
ahead.
that. Is that, well, you actually changed it just now, your picture on X, but I was wondering, is that why you had kind of a cartoon character? You didn't want to put your picture out there.
Yeah, no, you know what? I just changed it this morning, actually. So thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, I guess to start, I was hesitant to use a real picture. I don't really know why. Maybe it was to remain anonymous for a little bit, even though if you just click on the link on my bio, you go to my website and my face is like right there. I don't know. I'm cool with it. So I just the reason why I changed it this morning was just to if people see a real face, they're more likely to connect, and kind of go from there. So at least
It's
that's how.
funny. Okay, let's stop right here then, real quick, because I just changed mine to like a cartoon. So
Yeah.
I always had the same thought as you too, like having a real picture, like to connect. And then I saw someone else on X that was talking about kind of having a engaging or kind of a caricature for your profile thing. So that's why I changed it to this logo I've
Yeah.
had for about a year, and then you're changing yours for the opposite reason of why I thought at first. But yeah, now I don't know what is the right way to do it.
No.
We'll
So
see who
I
gets more follows after this.
Oh, you'll blow me away for sure. But I no, I like that you because Mark, you're using your YouTube logo. So you're working on the brand, right? Like that just kind of matches your brand. So people see you on X, and then they see the same image on YouTube. That's your brand. I don't have one of those yet. I'm just on Twitter X to make connections at this point.
Mm.
So maybe that's how I look at it. So I think you're making the right move for
All
sure
right,
to
cool.
stick
We'll
to
see
this.
how it goes. I'll let you know.
But yeah, no, I've been the local news thing. I've been in that forever. I enjoy it. I'm an executive producer now, so I run crews, our reporters, our photographers, producers, writers, assignment desk editors. Um, but I got away from the writing when I became a manager 7 years ago. So writing has always been my creative outlet. So back in 2018, I started a side hustle, email marketing, for an eye doctor who actually is a huge real estate investor. He's my real estate mentor. He's got 51 doors, just silently and very humbly. So we talk once a week, every Thursday on his way to the office. He'll call me. I go to him for my eye care. I write his emails to our patients about our patients, telling stories, and we just have a huge relationship. He's a friend, he's a mentor. So I am extremely lucky to have made that relationship. And yeah, I've got also a real estate license in Massachusetts and Rhode Island. My wife and I have both been licensed since 2018. We do maybe 1 to 3 deals a year to help family and friends. We're not attacking like fresh leads every day. We've got children, we've got W-2s, and the real estate investing. So, but we've been able to represent ourselves for our 2 real estate deals. So instead of commission going to somebody else, we take that money and we use it for repairs or upgrades. So those are kind of the things. We've got W-2, real estate investing, email marketing, and realtors. So those are our
Ah,
streams of income.
cool. And on on your podcast with Aaron, you kind of touched on maybe like an unconventional, maybe type of house hack you did that maybe helped you in your journey. Can you touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, so you and I were talking about this just before, and you kind of opened my eyes to it. I didn't really think about it that way, but you're absolutely right. So, my wife and I, we moved back to Massachusetts from Fort Myers back in 2013, and we stayed with my mother-in-law for 3 years. And 3 years, I mean, my God, um, we were
That's
able to.
the gray hair.
That's where it started. Yeah. We were able to, we were living for very cheap. So we were able to take all of our income and just crush our student debt and our consumer debt. And then we saved enough for our down payment on our house, which we purchased brand new back in 2016. And we've been here since, and we just watched our equity in that grow over time. And that's how we were able to get that HELOC, was through that equity. So yeah, it was a house hack. I always said, you know, had we known about house hacking, well, 10 years ago, we would have bought 5 properties, lived in it for each year, and just kept building our portfolio that way. But you really opened my eyes to that, Mark, about the house hacking thing. I didn't even think about it like that, but that's exactly what that was.
Yeah, I think that's, everyone talks about house hacking and it's super popular right now. But I think, the biggest benefit is that you're really cutting your biggest expense, right? Your cost of living. And like you were saying, you're living with your mother-in-law and I'm not sure what you're paying, but basically you're saying you're able to save a lot of money by doing that and pay off a lot of debt and, prepare your situation. But yeah, I mean, I love the journey and I love the mindset because it seems like, you're not, trying to grow super quickly. Like you're taking it all in. Like you're saying, you're connecting with people. You have other things, other projects you're working on, but you're not trying to scale too quickly. And that was like I always tell people that was my biggest mistake. And I had this huge vision when I got started. Like, oh, I want all these doors and everything. And then you kind of things change as you get into it. So, what has been the biggest eye opening thing for you? Once you got started in real estate.
I think that the biggest thing was that it actually works. Like I said, became obsessed with it in 2022. And I was like, man, all these regular people like us are making it work, and like they're changing their lives within 5 to 8 years. Just complete transformation of trying to dig out of debt and just survive paycheck to paycheck to like being able to do whatever they want. And you can see the power of it. And I'm excited for this year because we're going to be taking on that HELOC principle, and we're going to be using our income from our W-2s to crush that as well. But like, I feel like we're at the top of the mountain right now, where it's like things are tight for us, but we're starting next month, now that we've fully occupied. we're going to watch that snowball just get faster and faster and bigger and bigger. And that's really the compounding power of it. And then you can take that money and just keep, buy another one. Um, we don't need like 20 doors. We don't need 15 doors. We need 3 to 5 properties here in Massachusetts, Rhode Island. They're expensive, just like where you are in Hawaii, but we don't want to be. We're not in it for multi-millionaire status, 100 doors. We really are just chasing financial freedom and the ability to have control over our time. We're not going anywhere with our W-2s. We both enjoy it. My wife is a reporter at the same station in the mornings, so we're like passing ships at morning and night. Um, but just to have that freedom in 5, 8, 10 years, and just to be able to spend it with family. My ultimate goal is to be a good dad. I'd rather be considered and remembered as the best father and husband in the world rather than a mediocre middle manager at a local news station. So that's what I'm working toward every single day.
Well, let's touch on that. I heard you talking about this on Aaron's podcast, but you were saying kind of like you maybe see your son like an hour a day, and kind of like you're saying you're working at night, your wife working in the morning, and
Yeah.
your son wakes you up, and you don't get a lot of time with him, and that's kind of the why.
Yeah. So it was a pretty powerful thing. A lot of people search for their whys. Mine slapped me right in the damn face one day back in 2018. When my son was born. My wife was in labor for 31 and a half hours, and it was a difficult time. She was in a lot of pain. It was a tough time. So after 31 and a half hours, the doctor was finally like, we need to have a C-section now. And my wife and I we were both like, thank God, let's do this. So they got her comfortable, wheeled her into the OR. I walked in, they had already began the process. So I'm walking in like this, not wanting to see anything. Go to my wife's, head. I'm holding her, giving her well wishes and everything. And I get this weird feeling, and I could hear the doctor just grunting and like tugging as hard as he could to get my son out, and it just wasn't happening. Several minutes passed, and Brady, my son, came out, but there was no cry. And like, of course, that's the one thing you want to hear when in that process is your baby crying, and he wasn't. So I saw them like whisk him away, and there was a few moments of uncertainty there, and my wife looked me in the eyes and said, "Mike, is everything okay?" And I lied to her face. I said, "Yeah, babe, we'll see him in a couple minutes. Or, just gonna go. They're gonna take him real quick." Lied to her face. I knew he wasn't breathing. He wasn't. Like 30 seconds went by, and I'm like, "Please, God, do not let it end like this." After everything my wife just went through, praying hard and didn't want to be a liar. So it felt like 20 minutes. It was about 2 minutes. They called for respiratory. And then the sweetest sound in the world, my son started crying, and um, everything was good. They brought him over to the other side of the room, back into where we are. I didn't get to cut the cord or anything because it was an emergency, but I went and saw him, and I broke down. I stayed strong in front of my wife, but I broke down in front of the nurses and gave them hugs and said, "Thank you for saving my son's life." Went back to my wife, said, "You've got the sweetest little bundle of joy you'll ever see in your life. I can't wait for you to see him." Uh, when we got back out to the waiting room, saw my mom, broke down, like, sobbing, like hyperventilating. Uh, so that was the moment when my life changed. I had never loved my wife more than I have before. And like, if you need a reason, if you need a why, like, let that be it right there. That's what I was telling myself. So, um, you know, I from that day on, I just knew that I wanted to be on a path to spend as much time as I can. So fast forward to right now, he started kindergarten back in September, and the way my schedule is, yeah, I do. I see him for about an hour a day right now, Monday through Friday. So that's very tough. So my typical day is we'll wake up about 6:30 in the morning. Maybe it's an hour and a half. So we're outside by 8, but it's a tough hour. We're breakfast, get your clothes on, brush your teeth. We got to take your medicine. It's cold out. Get your boots on, get your jacket on. So it's just go, go, go. And then I don't see him again until we do it the next morning. So that's been a tough transition for me. I know things will change, but it just motivates me even more, and it just reinforces the reason why I'm doing what my wife and I are doing, is trying to create that time freedom. I've still got my 3-year-old with me. She's in preschool. She goes a little bit later in the afternoon, so at least I've still got her for another year, another 2 years actually. But yeah, that's really the why behind what we're doing.
Yeah, I think yeah, everyone has that why moment, and like we touched on it too. Like for me, it was the lockdowns. How it was being very risky, but your story actually kind of I mean, maybe I'm a bad, but I kind of forgot about. So like my son too, when he was born, the mom had a C-section and he was breached, and the cord was wrapped around his neck, and yeah, you kind of have this moment where you're like, man, and your eyes get open to a lot of things, and I kind of look back now and realize like you're saying, time is the most important thing, and sometimes we get caught up in a lot of things, and you're putting in the work right now, right? You're saying you're going to do a little bit of the feel uncomfortable right now, but hopefully you find that time later on to enjoy, and I think that's the biggest thing with real estate. Like you're saying, it works, but it is a little bit of work in the beginning.
And the other thing too is like perspective, right? It just your world changes in a split second when something like that happens. And I think, like, just to give credit to my parents real quick, my dad has always instilled like perspective. Whenever I came home with a bad day or whatever, he'd be like, "Hey, could be worse. There's somebody in a hospital bed right now who wishes they were in your spot with your problem that you're dealing with." So he's always had perspective. He's like, he served in our military. He got sick. He's okay. He's a cancer survivor. He's always been a fighter. So he's always had stuff to deal with, which helps him provide perspective. Like, slow down, Michael, you're okay. So he's always been good with perspective. My mom has always shown me what true love is through example. Just, always puts others first, the most selfless person, I know. And then just being there day in and day out. So just leading by example with like what love is. So the love and the perspective, I think, have really guided me and just kind of put me in my place. So I follow those principles, and it goes back to caring for the people, the human beings that we actually provide housing for. So kind of full circle there, but just wanted to give them a quick shout out to honor them.
Awesome. Yeah. I think that's a great attitude also for a real estate investor, like you're saying. I think that's why a lot of people don't start too, right? It's not as easy as a lot of people try to make it, right? Investing in real estate, and you're going to have struggles, but it's all about perspective, right? And you might have a bad tenant, you might have pipes break or freeze, and like you're saying, you just have to have perspective and say, okay, let's figure it out, and let's figure out a solution. But I think it's all about perspective, and I think that's super helpful. I kind of did want to touch on it. You mentioned Brady, so I just want to know: is your son named after Tom Brady?
Oh, it is the question we always get. The answer is no. My
Oh,
wife just
really?
really liked. Yeah, the answer
Oh,
is no. My wife just really liked it. I had never even considered it, but I was like, all right, cool. So maybe we'll say yes one day if he never does anything wrong. But right now, it's no. It's just Brady.
ah,
Yeah.
okay. You know, Speaking of your wife, I mean, has she been on board this whole journey, like this real estate invest? I think that's the biggest struggle for a lot of couples, right? Is they one person is on board and one person is not, and then that's a lot of times where there's lot of difficulty.
Yeah, that's a great question, Mark. So she is one of the most difficult people to convince that something is. I have like wild risk and wild, I'm the risk taker, and I come
Mm.
up with these crazy ideas. She, thankfully, is the one who balances me and says, "No, let's think about it from this way," um, and it's a good match, right? So when I started, the journey of just being obsessed with real estate, and I actually had her listen to some podcasts, which was a victory in itself. And when she said, "Yes, let's do this," I did not hesitate. I'm like, "All right, here's the property I want. Here's how it's going to cash flow." I had it already before I kind of presented to her. But she is a believer in it, and she I think it was last summer. Well, when did we graduate? Oh, it was a couple summers ago. She went to her 20th high school reunion, and a couple of the people that she went to high school with, like, they're doctors, and they're talking about not being a doctor anymore and just investing in real estate. She's like, Mike, these are really smart people, and I'm glad we're doing what they're doing. I'm like, see, I told you, like, it works. We just got to put the work in up front. But yeah, she's totally on board. And like, when we bought the first two family, she walked in. We took off the cabinets. We repainted. They were the ugly brown, dark brown. She repainted them all white, primed them. They look, professionally done. We put a lot of sweat equity into that new one. Yeah, nothing crazy, but painting and doing some minor stuff. And then we paid, tens of thousands of dollars to do other upgrades in the property. So we used the HELOC for that, and we'll have the tenants pay that down for us. But yeah, she's totally on board. Um, we're going to take, I think I mentioned it, but we're going to take 2024 off from purchasing just to focus on that HELOC to kind of minimize our risk there, because they can all at the bank, if a bank gets in trouble, they say, hey, where's my money? So we want to make sure we've got that under control. With that said, I'm not going to stop looking for properties. If something slaps me in the face, yeah, I'm going to do it if it's here or if it's remote.
Oh, that's kind of, yeah. Before we wrap up, there's a couple of things I want to touch on, and you mentioned though earlier about a business like HELOC or line of credit. Is that through a local bank or is that something in your area?
Yeah, it's through a local credit union, a bank,
Mm.
Rockland Trust out here in Mass. So yeah, because we have the LLCs, and we do that to protect my wife's identity with her profession. So the second HELOC we got was through the LLC, which is a business HELOC. The first HELOC we have is a personal one through our personal first primary property. But yeah, with that said, the business HELOC has a bit of a higher rate, so that's the one we're going to be focused a full percentage point higher, still variable. So a few things that we're hoping for. Again, not a strategy. Hope is not a strategy. But if rates do go down, our cash flow immediately goes up. And then our mortgage on the two family is 7.32. So if that even goes down to 6.32, just 1 point, that's an extra $230 in cash flow. We would refi at that point. And then if it goes down to like 5.7, 5.5, we'll refi again to get that cash flow up even more. So yeah, one personal HELOC, one business HELOC.
Right. So the business HELOC, because was trying to build business credit, and it's not as easy as everyone on social media likes to make it. So was that a business or LLC that was formed for the entity, or you already had this business LLC set up?
Nope. It was formed. So like right after we purchased each property,
Oh,
we formed the LLC through our real estate attorney. Just quick paperwork, and we have to do a 1 page report each year. It's not too much work at all, but yeah, it provides it allows us to be anonymous with the ownership of it. So that's why we did that. And I know that insurance is way more important than an LLC is, but again, it's to remain anonymous. With the specific properties with the names.
yeah. No, I mean, I have that structure set up too, but I've always found it difficult, and it's probably because I invest remotely out of state. But to get, you know, business HELOCs or lines of credits on my properties, that's been the struggle for me, and that's something that I've learned is maybe, and maybe it's just how the banks are right now. Things are tightening up, but it's because I don't live there. I find it difficult for me to access the equity in my properties in Pittsburgh. So maybe if I move there for a little while and kind of build a relationship, it might be easier. But it's interesting that that's kind of like the holy grail, like you're saying, that business HELOC or line of credit is what
Yeah,
everyone's kind of searching for. So a lot of times, you get this. I don't know how yours is set up, but a lot of times you get this line of credit and it's not attached to your personal name too, so that doesn't show up in your name and whatnot.
correct.
But
Yeah,
that's a great strategy.
yeah,
I kind of want to touch on one final thing. You kind of mentioned a little bit that you are you joined the course and you can talk about that, but kind of a remote out of state investing, and you've been successful in your backyard. So why are you maybe venturing out or looking at some other options?
yeah. The prices out here are ridiculous. Purchased a condo for 270 grand, and the two family was 460. You could buy two, three properties in other states. So that is attractive. So I did. I joined the Remote Real Estate Academy with Nathan Murith and Aaron Amin. Follow them both on X. That's how we first connected. And yeah, there's a private coaching group with us. We just had our second class. It's every Wednesday morning, a Zoom call. and it's an hour and a half, and we're just learning the principles of it. But yeah, I would be open to. I just want to learn more about remote real estate investing. Again, it would be a joint decision between my wife and I, but I want to at least have the knowledge. I want to soak up, the experience from the two of them. They're both doing it themselves, so why not learn from someone like yourself, also doing it in Pittsburgh? So it's something that I don't know much about. So I figured, why not? It's worth every penny of the investment, and I'm also making connections with 17 other great people who are doing it as well. So it was a no-brainer for me. I just love to learn and be a big sponge, anyways. But if I have an opportunity, and who knows, maybe I partner with someone in a deal from that group, it could open a lot of doors. So that's why I jumped into that.
I love it. So, what maybe real estate book you say has kind of been the biggest influence for you?
Man, so before real estate, and Dave Ramsey gets a ton of crap, and I'm on that. Total Money Makeover. Read this, man, back in 2017 maybe, and that really opened up the way that it twisted my mindset on how I think about money, and it helped us kind of get to that next level. But there's a point where I feel personally that you stop following Dave Ramsey. You get out of debt and you build a foundation with those 7 baby steps. But then if you want to get to the next level, you really need to not follow some of that advice, including taking on debt to buy real estate, which is what we did with our HELOCs. So Total Money Makeover twisted my mindset on how I think of that, think of money. Rich Dad Poor Dad was the one that was like, that's it. That was the book, and that changed it all for me. What about yourself?
Oh, of course, so I tell everyone, so like Rich Dad Poor Dad, of course, but
Yeah,
it's weird. Like I read it like 20 years ago, or when it first came out. My uncle was in real estate, and he gave all his nephews and nieces the book, and I read it, and it did not make sense to me. I thought it was
yeah,
like the dumbest book ever, because growing up in Hawaii, you see all these very expensive properties, and you just like, what do you mean my home is not an asset? Like I look at my parents and their relatives that they're sitting on all this equity. I'm like, oh yeah, everyone is wealthy. They own a home, and I just thought it was the dumbest book, and it didn't relate to me. And fast forward to, like I said, the lockdowns and everything, and it really, now that I read it, it's like, oh man, I should have been doing this for like 20 years already, and I would
yeah,
easily be retired. But yeah, definitely that book, that is a very good mindset. But One Rental at a Time, Coach
yeah.
Carson's book, those books are amazing. Those, I think, for me, it was more, I kind of follow that mindset of smaller is better. Like I said, when I first got started, I thought I wanted this huge portfolio, and I thought, yeah, this is easy. And but after you start doing it, like you're saying, I don't need a huge portfolio. I just need a certain amount of cash flow. And I don't know if you follow. I'm kind of big in the One Rental at a Time community. I follow a lot of those guys. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but like there's
Yeah, Michael
Dion.
Zuber, right?
Michael Zuber,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
And then there's Dion McNeely. So he has a YouTube channel, Dion Financial Talk, and he was on Bigger Pockets, and actually he's how I kind of started following One Rental at a Time. But when he was on Bigger Pockets, he was known as the lazy investor, and his one of his best things that he always said is he's not looking for how many doors. He wants the right amount of cash flow with the right amount of properties.
Amen.
So yeah, so if he's getting a certain amount of cash flow and it only takes 5 properties, that's his goal. And I think that's for a lot of people, like you're saying, like yourself, you love your W-2, you probably not have, you're not looking at retiring anytime soon, and you enjoy it, but you just want this extra buffer or extra cash flow coming in to help you have more time. And I think that's what it is, right? And I think for myself, yeah, I want to keep scaling, but then at some point it's going to be like, okay, let's like Chad Carson talks about it, right? You kind of look at your portfolio and you see which properties are performing to your standards, and there's some that maybe you thought they were, maybe they're not, but okay, let's sell these off and maybe pay off some debt on some other ones, and now maybe you have instead of 20 properties, now maybe you have 10 paid off properties, and now you have less chips on the table, you have less risk on the table, and now you're just straight cash flow basically, and you can sleep well at night, right?
Totally. That's what it's all
Yeah.
about, sleeping well at night.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm getting old, so I'm trying to retire soon and enjoy, like you're saying, the time freedom and whatnot. So, yeah, I love your story, man. I love it. I'm glad we got to connect, and we'll see whose channel gets more followed or whose ex gets more following with their change in their profile picture.
Oh, that'd be fun. I think it's
Yeah.
gonna be you, but yeah,
Nah, but where can people follow you then? Since you changed your picture and whatnot, but how can they connect with you?
yeah, on X at Inspired Landlord, but there's no O in the Lord part. It's LRD. And then my website is inspiredlandlord.com. Those are the two things I have right now. I just want to stay on X and kind of focus on that just to make the connections and have fun with the content and learn from people like yourself. So,
Nah,
Inspired Landlord.
yeah, I love it. I mean, I didn't know what to expect when I got on X or Twitter or whatever, but I actually enjoy, I think, that platform the most.
Yeah. It
But
makes engagement, right? And
yeah, yeah, but there's a lot of crazy stuff too that goes on there.
that's what I was just gonna say. I like how you can kind of cultivate your own community by the people
Yeah.
that you choose to follow and things like that. So I like that part of it as well, but definitely a lot of crazy things as well.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming on, and we'll get you back on once you maybe when if you continue down this path and you get a property out of state or remote and see how that journey goes for you, and you can compare, which apples to oranges and which one what you like better.
I love that. That'd be awesome, Mark. Look forward to that.
All right, man. Thanks for coming on, man.
All right, take care.
Okay. Bye.